If it's one thing that'll grab my eyes when it comes to anime, it's a work that unapologetically pushes its all in defining itself. To just push down on the pedal and bring me along for the ride. Now you might not be able to guess it by the title, but Great Pretender does just that. An energetic, sharp crime drama with a grand premise fitting of its art style. The audience follows small-time swindler Makoto Edamura as he enters the world of those who con the biggest frauds around, the wealthy elite scattered across the globe. Amusingly, the way he's pulled in is by picking out a catch a little too big for his size, and that catch's name is Laurent Thierry. Together, the two strike a bet to see who's trickier and put on a show in the process. Even with the show's gripping main appeal, I applaud its eagerness in addressing the forces of poverty and race that push people into crime in the first place. Great Pretender will keep you on your toes, that's for sure. If none of my words are doing it, I'll just let the show speak for itself. The first arc, to be exact, which kicks everything off, titled Los Angeles Connection. These 5 episodes take us to the sun-baked city, but more importantly, pulls in on all the strengths that makes this show so intriguing. From the start, the dynamic rivalry between Edamura and Laurent, which is the core of their relationship, comes front and center during the scheme to dupe Eddie Casano, a Hollywood drug kingpin, out of $5 million. Of course, these characters would have to navigate their own shifting alliances and fronts under the constant threat of betrayal. The character who first makes his idea clear would be Abigail Jones. Someone who seemed like another member of Eddie's harem was actually Laurent's mole in the operation. Her acrobatic skills, which combine Olympian with habitual meth user, shown in a scene key animated by Atsuko Nozaki, were an act to hook Eddie, but it was a convincing one. As Abby frantically bounces around the pool, the panic mood reflects the plotline at large, where webs of overturned expectations feed escalating stakes, making it so tense yet entertaining to watch. In the end, Eddie decides to trust in Dr. Edamura and wants to see his hands pull out some Sakura magic. Time to start cooking. To slow it down just a bit, however, I'd like to break down the opening scene's genius in both technical skill and thematic significance, as it effortlessly established Edamura's character and his role in the story at large. As the first seconds pass, eyes open into a blurry vista, and beautiful as it may be, something's off. With clouds streaking all over the bottom and the green curving downwards, a sharp-eyed few will notice that the view's inverted. A hard cut takes us to a super close shot of Edamura's upside-down face, confirming the information flashed on screen just a few seconds ago. As he slowly opens his eyes, their quick transformation from confusion to shock and finally full-blown panic is a good bit of comedy that gets better when the camera pulls back to his dangling body as it precariously swings in front of the Hollywood sign. Whoever animated this cut has my attention, because Edamura's wild flailing arms and twisting body finally settling and going limp had me on the floor. The scene itself is pretty straightforward, but superb storyboarding by the series director Hiro Kaburagi makes sure to drive home that our boy is in over his head, or under his feet in this case. The next 2 cuts continue the idea by showing his feet giving a nervous twitch and heaving chest struggling to get air in, before returning to his face once again. The final shot leaves us with Edamura, hands clasped together, and it echoing into the LA basin without answer. A great half minute just to say, he is screwed. Period. But to be honest, he's been screwed for a long time now, and in my eyes, the biggest and longest con to his name was surviving in a society that has shut him out. This life isn't something one just stumbles into. Flashbacks pull back the curtains on the mystery and showed that he was just another kid, trying his best to stay afloat in supporting himself and his ailing mother. If it's gonna be anything that does it, it's medical debt. And so he put himself to work, hoping to cure her through the power of honest earnings. Obviously, that's not how it worked out. Turns out, he was duped into working for a fraudulent health drinks company, and ends up doing time for it. The sheer amount of terror in his eyes made the panic clear enough. But the creative team doubled down with the monochromatic red coloring burning across the screen and distorted perspective during the interrogation. It's not an easy scene to watch, but that's just the start. After getting out and meeting his mom again, he assures her that he's resolved to start walking straight again. However, interview after interview, he's shut down for the prior felony. How can you expect someone to walk if they can't even stand in the first place? Sadly, his mom succumbs to her unnamed illness, and he's left completely alone. The heart of this tragedy, though, goes back even earlier. He actually had a nice, happy little family. Not to mention a respected lawyer, strong family man dad that he looked up to until he was arrested for aiding human trafficking. This is something that's been chasing him all his life. The police officer questioning him made such a quaint statement, as cruel as it was. this is what they expected from the son of a criminal. And if I'm being honest, I'm not surprised either. If we critically look at how modern public perceptions of criminality and punishment, we'll see the two akin to diseases and the appropriate treatments meant to excise them, like tumors. Then lines like that are mere reflections of the ideas. That criminals have something innate to them that push them to the other side of the law, as if that wasn't something formed through social conventions in the first place. Said individuals then could pass the factor in question to later generations, who also must be monitored lest they repeat the mistakes of the predecessors. Those were the shackles that bound Edamura, and ironically enough, in embracing the life of conman, he actually became freer. Reputation precedes you. That's definitely something this show is interested in talking about. For some, like Eddie, it can bring you enough wealth and influence to undermine even the right side of justice. But that's a privilege afforded to him in no small part to his race and class. Others, like his enforcer Salazar, face a very different reality of America. One where poverty dragged on his feet since the very day he was born. Even as the head of a gang, keeping his underlings paid and safe from the police force that sought to arrest him was a fact of life. Edamura learns about all of this during his stay with him. Their conversation being blocked in by the row of open cereal boxes, Chinese food containers, and milk cartons, almost as if they would drown in the decadence. But Salazar has one very important reason to stick around in this mess: his one and only son. To give him even a glimmer of the delectable upward mobility, crime is the only path he knows, and the only one left open to him. Even then, the winnings never split evenly, and it made me hope that he'd somehow be able to break free of the cycle, for his family's sake. I mention winnings because we can't forget about the person who pulled Edamura into this whole scheme in the first place. Lauren Terry. Complete mystery, but he's a confidence man through and through, which you could see even if he didn't tell you. Older, and more assertive as a result, it's clear he's got a hand up. But if it was one thing I underestimated, it was the extent of his connections. Forget using Edamura's old partner and scam victim as bait to pull him into the plan. He had a separate partner impersonate an FBI agent, fooling both the LAPD and Eddie, who he had in his pocket. It goes without saying that Edamura was also wrapped up in it, acting as the unintended guarantor of an under-the-table plea deal, which really was Lauren's team gouging Eddie for every penny he was worth. Poor bastard. Not that I could feel bad for him, but Salazar had my sympathies, and Edamura's too. After a sting gone wrong, both are apprehended, but that doesn't mean our guy's out of the fight yet. Even with his ears ringing, hands cuffed behind his back, he chose to fight back against the absurd cruelty of the justice system. Real brave show he put on, and even if it weren't the real deal, I trust that he meant every single word, right down to its core. Instead, his speech is met with a quick smack to the back of the head, and he wakes up to the view of a tropical sunset. He learns that everything about his actions, from top to bottom, were not only anticipated, but coaxed forth by Lauren's planning. He questions his own worth as a con man, before getting some encouraging words from the group that tricked him. The Frenchman's more than glad to have him aboard, but makes sure to remind Edamura of the bet. Smiling, he asks to get a little bit of time before taking his cut from the heist to turn himself in for the scams he's done in Japan. And with that, the curtains close for now, but with a total of 22 episodes, you can be sure this isn't their last score. To be honest, if these were the only 5 episodes, I'd still be impressed with it. But now, there's a chance to see if Edamura can actually catch Lauren for once and have him scrambling. With it already out on Japanese Netflix, and it coming to the rest of the world August 20th, you may already be able to watch it by the time I release this video. So go ahead and do it.